am a survivor of incest. When I was I'm 32 years old now. When I was 8, my 13-year-old brother molested me. Although it was only a few times, he did not penetrate me with his penis. It has and continues to shape my life. I'm going to share with you the ways that sexual abuse has affected me, the processes of healing I've encountered, and my ideas about how we can end child sexual abuse. The abuse affected 3 major areas of my life: my sexuality, my ability to trust others, and my relationship with myself. When my brother inflicted oral sex on me at age 8 and tried to force me to do the same for him, he exposed me to sexuality far too early. I was overstimulated, and I continued to seek that overstimulation. I lost my virginity far too young. I was promiscuous and took a lot of dumb risks. I'm actually lucky to be alive today. Because I thought my only value in a relationship was sexual, the boys I chose to spend time with continued to victimize me. The abuse and re-victimization caused great problems in trusting, especially men. The fears of being controlled and abused, of my vulnerability and my need for love being exploited are direct outgrowths of sexual abuse. And I continue to experience leftovers of these fears in my relationship, even after 15 years together. My dysfunctional assumptions continue to be proved wrong, and each time they become a little less powerful. The abuse also taught me to disconnect with myself. I did it during the sexual abuse to survive the helplessness I felt. I did it afterwards to dutifully forget it ever happened, as instructed by my abuser. And I did it to numb the pain I couldn't quite bury deep enough. And I got good at it. I learned to ignore my inner signals, both physical and emotional. When you ignore a boiling pot, it overflows. This is crisis. It's like going from feeling nothing to feeling everything all at once as intensely as possible. I've been suicidal, but my fallback emotions of guilt and shame have saved me from taking the selfish steps required to end my life. I have experienced several severe depressive episodes, and I've officially been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. These symptom clusters have surrounded several healing episodes in my life. When I hit puberty and began to kiss and date boys, I was flooded with all these memories of sexual abuse by my brother, along with nightmares and flashbacks. I wasn't sure what to do with them, besides write about them and talk about them. I wasn't even sure they were real and not just some dream I had had. When I was 17 and living on my own, I received a letter from an older sister stating, "You were molested. I can't tell you who did it, but go get help." I was shocked, floored, and scared. I didn't think she could know about what had happened with our brother, so I wondered who else had gotten me that I had repressed. It turned out that she had been referring to our brother. Apparently, he had casually mentioned in a conversation to another family member that Katie and I experimented sexually as children, and no harm came from that. I wrote him a letter and asked him what he remembered, and I got back pages of excuses and explanations. He basically told me that he'd been confused by his hormones, and he didn't think he was a perpetrator, but that if I thought he abused me, well, he was sorry, but he didn't. Another sister, Kelly, who was the survivor of many perpetrators and had been in therapy for years, provided me with so much support and love and hope. I did not get counseling, being without insurance and living on tips. Had I known I could get free counseling at the local rape crisis center, I would have. But I wrote and read a lot and talked to my family and friends, and eventually felt able to put it away and move forward with college. While at a master's program for clinical psychology, the sexual abuse surfaced a couple of more times. Once when I was visited by my brother and his new wife and baby girl, and again when I had my first client on internship who had abused his younger sister. Again, years later, when I began work as a sexual abuse counselor, the intense training required me to reevaluate and reintegrate my own abuse history. It was hard, but it was worth the opportunity to give more meaning to my abuse and fight back against it. And a couple of years ago, after my father showed me a photo of my brother's beautiful little girls, I suddenly became racked with fear for their safety. My therapist encouraged me to talk to my dad about it and ask him to take over the responsibility for making sure my brother's wife knew about the abuse. So each time the abuse has surfaced, I've faced crisis, processed my experiences, and put it away feeling more in control over it. This past Valentine's Day, my love of 15 years finally proposed. And I was on cloud 9 for days until I completely overreacted over an argument over something really tiny. Because of my training, I wondered if it was related to the abuse. In one of my clients, it would have been easy to predict that a major developmental milestone like marriage could trigger issues like control, trust, and intimacy for an abuse survivor, but it took me by surprise. After doing a lot of reading and writing and drawing, art therapy, I decided I needed to confront my brother again and take a more active role in protecting his children. I was less concerned with the possibility of my brother molesting his daughters than I was with his attitude that innocent childhood sexual exploration between siblings was harmless. So I sent his wife a care package full of books and pamphlets and a letter informing her of the true premeditated, coercive, and malicious nature of the abuse. And I have felt a shift within myself.